Welcome to Hot Flashbacks, where we boldly navigate the ups and downs and unexpected detours of our 30s and 40s while finally recalling how clueless we were in our 20s. I'm Molly Ward, your captain through this midlife roller coaster. Stick around for laughs, life lessons, and maybe a few I can't believe I survived that stories. Follow our journey on Instagram and Facebook's at Hot Flashbacks. Make sure to like, follow, and share so I can keep making these episodes. Let's dive in. I guess what I'm saying here is if you should check out Prison, it'll really open your mind.
Oh, God damn it.
This thing has just really took a turn.
I'm over here, I'm like, oh shit, how is she gonna make this one funny?
Welcome to Hot Flashbacks. I'm your host, Molly Ward, and I'm back today with my friend JeNae. Holler at the people, JeNae.
Holler!
JeNae!
It's me, your anxious phone from last time, and I hope everyone's staying hydrated.
My anxious
and learning
friend.
their attachment style.
There you go. Anxious attachment. Me too. Gosh, it's stressful. I didn't even know that was a real thing until I saw like some TikTok. Who am I kidding? I don't have a TikTok. I saw it on Instagram probably 3 months after it came out on TikTok. That's the way 40-year-old people do it.
Same though.
Oh, you don't have a TikTok?
Yeah, I just watch reels of TikToks because I know my limitations and I'll fall into like a TikTok spiral. I won't leave my house.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's for real.
Okay, I feel that. That's why I'm not doing it. So anyway, back to the topic at hand, which we haven't shared with.
Yeah, we're starting off strong.
I know.
I did meditate today, I promise.
We've already digressed. We've already digressed and we haven't even started. JeNae, thanks for being here. And I have been interested in the topic really of like sexual orientation and sexuality and sexual identity development for a long time. I think that the reason that I wanted to chat is because I don't think we do enough exploring of our sexual identity, sort of how it's formed and how it's impacted. And I don't normally do a ton of research before I talk about these things because this is not intended to be like a podcast that you listen to get all your good information, right? Like we're not NPR. I did, however, do a little bit of looking up about this topic because I didn't want to speak about it as if I am an expert or as if my sort of generalizations of people I know is generalizations of society in general, but it turns out I'm not terribly wrong. So it's good to look things up on the internet and then be like, oh yeah, okay, I'm right on track. So
guess what? Right again.
I just make sure to Google things in a way that it always tells me I'm right. So, I mean, if you want it to be true, you can find it.
What even is an algorithm?
Exactly. So I thought that we could chat a little bit about sexual identity and sexual orientation in your middle ages. I do think that this topic is different for women than it is for men. And statistically speaking, that is very true. So before I really like unveil all the truth nuggets that I found online, along with the experiences I've had and experiences that people I know have had, let's take a few minutes. So to the extent that you're comfortable being vulnerable, to share your journey with your sexual identity. Is that?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
I'm an open book. I think with mine, it's layered, and I think the spark notes is growing up, I was raised fiercely Mormon, and so the discussion of sex or romance or anything like that, it wasn't a discussion. It just didn't happen, and it was very much that's something that you need to worry about when you get married, and you're not going to get married until your boyfriend or your missionary comes home, and that's not going to be for a while, and so we'll talk about that later. For now, just distractify, learn how to be good at school, pick up a sport, or learn an instrument. And so that's what I did. I didn't have what I would define as like attraction to boys. But I idolized girls, like a lot of my girlfriends, like best friends, things like that. But then, there were boys that I thought were popular and charismatic. So I didn't really entertain it because it didn't matter. I wasn't allowed to go on dates or anything anyway. So what's the point? And then it wasn't until after I had actually graduated from high school and ironically relocated from Vegas to Utah that my eyes to the entire world were very quickly opened. And it was like, oh, that you can like once, one gender, you can like both, you can like none, you can like all, like it was very enlightening to me, but I still didn't take the time to see how it applied to me. I was just like, I don't know, I just didn't really feel like I was attracted to anything for a while, until I was about 21. And then I had what I would define as like my first relationship with someone of the opposite sex. And it was great. And it lasted about 2 years. And nothing bad happened when it came undone, but it was just kind of reached its course. And I had committed to the idea of serial monogamy. And that was when I did just identified as bisexual. And I didn't want to be in any kind of committed relationship. I wanted to see what was out there because I realized how much I didn't know. And it wasn't just, physical intimacy. I didn't understand romance. I didn't understand my dating style, love languages. There was just so much, which is why I did serial monogamy, I guess, which is every single one of my partners is like, you dick, that's not what I called it, but ultimately ended up getting married to a man. We were together for 8 years. Um, didn't work out. And then about 3 months after I had decided to leave my marriage, so before anything had really come out, I came out as lesbian and now I'm here. And I actually have a wonderful partner and she's fun to be around and makes me laugh and somehow speaks to love languages that I didn't even know existed. So it's awesome.
That's good.
And that was 4 minutes. Sorry.
No, it's all good. I think the journey part is important. So recap is that you were raised, like most of us, to really yearn for or think that a heterosexual relationship was what you needed or what existed. I also think, it's interesting because I'm digressing, but exposure has a lot to do with it. And so therefore age also, because I think I didn't really know anybody who was gay when I was young. And so that the idea of that it existed was out there, but when you don't know someone, it doesn't feel as real. And so I think, one of the things that we talk about at a college and university is that we know that children who visit colleges and universities, or at least visit one in their childhood, are more likely to attend a college or university when they become adults. And that's mostly because when you experience it, when you go there, then it becomes a place you can see yourself. And so if you live in a place where, we live in Ogden and there's a university here, but, if you live in, I don't know, somewhere far Utah, I don't know any cities, where maybe there's not a college or university accessible and you may never actually see one. And we particularly see this with people who don't have transportation and stay very local or even live in cities where they don't get out of their city very much. Yeah. And so those people are less likely to go to college because it's like signing up for something you've never really seen before and you don't see as accessible. But studies show that if we can get kids to college or university campuses early in their life, they can see it as something that's achievable and it becomes less just something that's on TV. And I know it's not like a direct parallel, but I think about it as very similar, is that I knew that being gay was an option. I knew that it was a thing. And I had seen some of it on TV, although not until later in my life, really, like when Ellen DeGeneres and some of that happened. I didn't really see any on TV before that. So it just didn't feel accessible. And I wasn't raised in a religious home in any way. But I can only imagine that sort of amplifies the idea that there is no other way to live your life.
Yeah. Well, and that's interesting. I don't know. I appreciate that insight too, because like I grew up in the middle of nowhere, New Mexico, and I don't remember. I mean, I lived there until the seventh grade. I don't remember seeing any queer community, you know, and then going from that to Las Vegas under the protective thumb of my LDS mother. It was just I didn't. I can remember the first queer friend that I had, but as far as representation and being out in the early 2000s, I don't know. It was during that year when I would start considering that. I don't know. I don't remember any vivid things that I could, idealize and see as an option.
Yeah, and heteronormative things are real in the sense that, and everything around you is heterosexual, then it is difficult to, especially as a child or as a young adult, to conceptualize it being any different for you. You know, when every show you watch and every person you see and every person you have contact with and your parents and all their friends and everything, all the advertisements, everything is heteronormative. It's difficult to picture what it might look like if that wasn't the lifestyle that you wanted. It is quite common for folks, and not common as in like 80% of people, but women's sexuality is more dependent on a variety of things that are not necessarily related to sexual desire. And so midlife can present a really important stage for women in transitioning in their sexuality, because you experience physiological changes, you experience social changes, and you have sexual experiences, which can also impact the way that women understand and create their own sexuality. And so that is very different for men. It is less common for men to have experiences impact the way that they feel about the opposite sex or the same sex. They're like on the spectrum, generally speaking, men are a lot more to one side than the other. So we have this idea, right, of sexuality existing on a continuum. It's not like you're either A or B. It's like there's all these spaces in between A and B. When did you realize that you weren't just straight up straight? Straight up straight.
Straight up straight.
Yeah, 100% standing up straight. When did you realize that, you think?
When did Tegan and Sarah's The Con come out?
I don't even know what that is.
Is that their album? Yeah.
It's an album.
Oh my god. Yeah, it's a CD, yeah, a CD compact disc. But yeah, no, that was a joke. I think
2007.
when I realized that checks out.
Yeah.
I was a sophomore. Oh my god. Yeah. No, but so maybe it wasn't a joke. Oh shit. But I would say okay, I think the first time I had a safe conversation with myself about my sexuality, I was 17.
Okay.
And I had a friend who was very out and very proud, and I had a different type of affection for her. Nothing ever happened, but I couldn't explain it. I was just quite fond and fiercely protective over her. And I think that was about the time that you start to feel like the physical symptoms
Right.
of a crush.
Right.
And that was when I was just like, why do I want to throw up when she puts her hand on my hand? Like, why do I want to puke all the time?
Yeah.
Or it's like, oh my god, you notice that they change a body lotion, and it's like, am I a psycho?
Yes. That's the short answer. So you were 17.
Yeah,
okay. But then you
17,
you went on to get married to a man and had a very what from the outside would appear to be a very heteronormative, heterosexual relationship.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I was a card carrying bisexual for 10 years before I got married, legally married. But with that one, with my divorce becoming final, almost a year and a half now, I'm still untangling how I followed that. I think that I own a lot of the responsibility for chasing that ideal, picturesque of like first comes love, marriage,
Like
house,
what's
baby,
expected of
like
you.
all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to say expectations either, because my parents, neither one of them were the vision of what you would see a couple be. So I don't know. I think I have a lot to I have a lot to deal with, and not deal with, I get to learn from it, but like it's still confusing to me how I first of all, how I got married after living in this mindset my entire life of, my mom has been married 7 times. I never wanted to be married. I don't know how 3 years ago all of a sudden I changed my mind to sign a piece of paper. Like I don't I have a lot more growing up and learning to do, but I do know that as far as like physical connection and understanding my true intimacy and desires, to put it, like the physiological changes that you experience as you become a woman and mature. I don't think I actually understood my own sexual satisfaction until a couple months ago.
Yeah.
If I'm being honest, I thought it was totally normal to have to help your buddy reach the finish line. Like I thought it was, I thought, I didn't know, I thought it was a group project.
Right.
Like, I didn't know it. Like I didn't know that the stuff that I was experiencing wasn't normal
Yeah.
until I was out of that situation, and then you experience real connection and fulfillment and I don't know, passion that doesn't subconsciously give you the ick. Um Turns out it's awesome. You can't see my thumbs, but both of them are up.
I could see your thumbs if your camera would
I'm so
work.
great.
Get it together.
I had shitty Wi-Fi.
I see that. I think that the idea that you could explore your sexuality over time and not be, funneled into a heteronormative lifestyle. And for some folks, for a lot of folks, that works, right? That is the way that they're wired. That is what they want. But I think there are a lot of folks who don't actually think about what they want or what feels right or when they're happiest until they're married and are in their 30s. And I think having children probably plays a role in that for a lot of people as well. But a lot of women are re-examining their sexual identity in their 30s and 40s, and at least become like coming sort of more to terms with what it is one way or the other. What was it like for you to do that in sort of in your middle ages, and how do you think other people perceive that or deal with that? Because there's a lot of like, there's an expectation that it's yours to handle and figure out and work through, but you always bring your friends and family along for this ride as well, right? And so what have the response been like for you?
I think those closest to me, um, there was like no, they just, I kind of just got the shoulder shrug. I didn't get like a bouquet or a balloon or anything for um, saying that I, am exclusively attracted to women. I guess I don't know. Everybody was just like, yeah, and Miller. What else we've been know we've been new. I feel like it's so embarrassing that so many people knew before me, and you just kind of walk around and you're like, well, you couldn't send me an email or let me know that you guys thought of this. But within my within my community, it was great. It was, and I loved it. I should say, I want to make sure I say that. Like, I loved that there was no reaction.
Yeah.
It was like I had just told, I loved it. It was like they were just like, yeah, and I feel incredibly fortunate for that. I know I'm privileged in that way. But then as far as they're not going to have my socials, right? Like you might,
Right.
I'm going to share something, but within the queer community, um, in at least in my area, I didn't really feel accepted as a, what do the internet call it? We call late in life lesbians who happen to look painfully straight. Um,
Right.
it was hard. It still is hard. It's still like I joined every single social media group. I've sent countless like volunteer requests to different areas with, or or organizations in the area trying to even just invest in my community. Um, but I don't know. I kind of get the vibe that everyone thinks I'm a poser, which has been hard. But I know I'm
Okay.
not. I know I care about, I care about who I care about. And sure, I haven't watched any of the L Word, but it doesn't mean that I don't love who I love, you
Right.
know?
Right. Really? People have said that to you, or that's just like the vibe that you get?
Mostly critical judgment over the fact that I was married to a man.
Oh, right. Yeah, because a lot of folks don't deal well with things changing like that because they feel like you've either been deceptive in one way or the other. When the reality is you could very much have been at one point in a happy, committed heterosexual relationship and then not want to be in that anymore and feel differently. I think a lot of people struggle with how that works.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And I think struggling with how it works is people's own personal journey to
Mm-hmm.
try and identify if my history and having to untangle who I want to spend my life with is going to impact the way that you perceive me, then that's okay. That's really okay. I get to love who I get to love, and it's a spectrum, to quote what you said too.
Mm-hmm.
Man, women, or other, it shouldn't matter. I like our community to be all inclusive. Early in life, gold stars, late in life, brand newbies. Like I'm passionate about making sure that we save a spot at the table for everyone.
Yeah. And I think it is interesting because it is uncomfortable for other people when you change your identity in that way, right? People feel very caught off guard or they didn't know or why didn't you tell me? When really, I think, at least for me, it's more like an evolution than like an overnight decision or an overnight change. It's not really so much of a decision as it is becoming more aware of myself, becoming more in touch with how I feel and what I want, and being more comfortable to be able to do those things. Sexual fluidity in women is just much more common than it is in men. And what studies show is that women are much more likely to sort of fall in love with a person than regardless of their gender and are open to the idea. And part of that stems from the fact that women also have very close, tight friendships in a way that men don't commonly experience it. And so for women, especially in your middle ages, you can find yourself falling in love with someone of the opposite gender and you didn't expect that to happen. And again, on the spectrum, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're all of a sudden a lesbian, right? You could just be in love with a woman and be in a relationship with that person. I think the labels do make it confusing, although for some folks, the labels are more comfortable. I was reading an article where these two people had gone through this sort of what the article refers to as sexual upheaval late in their lives. And a lot of the people that they interviewed that had that situation had said that they had never really considered falling in love with someone of the same gender until it happened, that it wasn't necessarily a forethought. And so for some folks, it's like something that you've maybe ignored or just not really allowed to happen, right? Even when you're in a relationship with someone of the opposite sex. So like you and I'll just use an example for myself. So myself and my potential husband, Bob, when you're dating Bob, there are moments throughout that development of your relationship where you may allow yourself to continue the relationship, allow yourself to continue having feelings, or not, right? Turn those feelings off, disengage. Falling in love is a choice. It's an act. It's a thing that we do and put time and effort into. And so for a lot of folks, it's not that you couldn't fall in love with someone of the same sex, but that you haven't, because you just haven't allowed yourself to. And I'm not saying that everybody can, but for some people, it's like you've just never really allowed it to get to that point. And so you didn't know. And now you're 30 or 40 or 50 and you opened up, and one of your really good friends all of a sudden became someone that you were in love with, right? And so they find that later in life, folks, especially women, tend to have be a little bit more open to that idea.
Right. Yeah. Well, and love is defined different or felt differently with
Yes.
women, I feel like, as well. So
Yeah, 100%.
no, that's all very good points.
And I think that it's important to recognize that while this may not be a journey that everyone goes through, it is very helpful to understand that it is a journey and that some folks just go through it later. And that doesn't mean or doesn't necessarily negate any prior relationships that they've had as being fake or unreal. I've dated men as well, and they were people I really cared about. They just weren't the right people for me. So, and I think a lot of times people discount that as like, oh, you never really loved them. You never cared about them. That was just a facade. But I think there's a lot of processing that has to happen. And then even so, I think that we change and evolve over time. And so sometimes the way you felt when you were 20 isn't the way you feel when you're 40.
Right. Exactly.
And like the way I feel when I'm 40 is that I am going to have like a mole or a skin tag that I've never seen before on pretty much a weekly basis. So actually, no, I don't have any skin tags. I'm happy to report.
Good.
I think those are really weird. I'm not trying to be mean, but like, I don't know. They just kind of creep me out a little bit. I guess maybe if I had a skin tag, I wouldn't feel that way.
Yeah, well, I have a dog that has the skin tag on her eye, so I'm sensitive. Just kidding.
I'm sorry to offend you. No, it's not like I think they're gross. I don't know. I don't have one. And so I kind of feel like if I get one, you'll be the first to know though. Cause now I feel like this is going to be some sort of like monumental age development when I get a skin tag.
Please, if you must, don't.
You were almost speechless. Because I am gonna video call you and out of nowhere show you my skin tag. You're not gonna be able to avoid it.
I'm gonna screenshot it and put it on the internet. Everyone, follow hot flashbacks and all of her skin tags.
Oh my gosh!
Yes, I'll hire me for marketing. Hire me for marketing.
As you get older, you just find these weird. You have like a mole you never saw before, or like I think I have age spots on my hands. I started wearing this like serum. Don't whoa me. That was like a pity, like, wow, you're old kind of whoa. Get that out of here.
No, that was the lag.
Okay, so I just want to say that I think months ago I was at Starbucks and I was waiting for my coffee, and there were two ladies there hanging out waiting for their coffee. They looked like they were catching up, friends. They were probably in their 40s, and they were comparing their age spots on their hands. And I was listening to them and I was like, yeah, okay, good. This is normal because these other ladies also have these age spots. They're talking about what kind of serum they use. And I chimed in and told them what kind of serum I use because it seems to be making a difference. But these are the things you worry about at 40.
Did they look at you and wonder why you were listening to what they were talking about their age spots?
Shut up. I mean, I know
what
that like
big ears you have.
Okay, but I was right there. Like Starbucks is not big. Okay. Starbucks is not big. I did probably like insert myself in a conversation that I wasn't necessarily welcome in. But if you talk about things in public that other people can relate to, like age spots, you should expect that someone is going to either criticize you or give you advice that you don't know, because you can't just talk about that stuff and expect people not to, right?
Or at least ask what is the solution?
Okay.
No,
I guess
I'm
I should have asked.
Private. I'm gonna keep no.
So there's also some data out there that talks about menopause and its effect on both the women's sexual gosh, I feel like I'm in middle school that I don't know the right. Thank you. I was going to say urges, and that sounds weird. Sexual urges. Okay.
Oh. No. Because I always like to say, listen to this. Listen to this one. Listen to this one. I'm gonna try this pickup line, but I'm gonna say it real quiet.
Okay.
All right. Hey, babe, you want to get the keys?
Yeah.
For a sex drive.
I get it. Okay.
Edit it out.
I thought it was like a knock knock joke where I'm supposed to answer, like, yes, I want to get the
The
keys.
the pause, it was supposed to be keys, get your keys, we're going on a sex
Oh,
drive.
you need to work on the timing there. I
I'll
mean,
work on my Wi-Fi. I'll actually pay more than $16 or whatever it is for the upgrade.
are you sure you pay it all? So it's kind of like you're stealing someone's Wi-Fi, is what it sounds like. Like you live.
Don't talk about stealing Wi-Fi. I'll go to court again.
Oh yeah, that's right. Sorry, I digress. There's a lot of research that also says, aside from menopause, that women are highly impacted by their sexual experiences, and that negative sexual experiences, such as rape and sexual assault and abusive relationships with really either way with partners, can actually turn women off to having other relationships with the person of that sex. And so there's studies both way that show that women in heterosexual relationships, if they have a bad one, if they're abused, or if they suffer sexual abuse from a man in their past life, that can make it very difficult for women to engage with men moving forward in that way. And it's also actually the same for homosexuals, that you could have a great relationship with a woman and be a lesbian or be gay, and then all it takes is one experience with sexual assault or rape or a bad or abusive relationship for you to no longer feel comfortable being with women and seek a heterosexual relationship, which is very different from how men operate. Have you read the book I gave you?
It's looking right at me. She's Come Undone.
Yes.
I'm sorry. I'm the slowest reader.
I am too. I'm a really slow reader.
I'm almost done with the Remarkable Utah Women. And then, so I have the ladder shelf where I have to read things in order of the way that they've been given to me. So it's fair.
Okay.
And so, and so yours is right behind Remarkable Women. So it's next in the queue.
I mean, I should be right next to the Remarkable Women.
You are so clever. God damn it. Good job. You are so good.
I'm killing myself over here.
That one was a good joke. That one was way better than mine.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll take it. So do you feel like you've had any experiences in your life that have impacted the way you feel about men?
Yeah. Positive and negative.
Yeah.
Sorry for the lip. The way I feel about men. Oh no. Still no Instagram handles will be shared, right?
That's correct.
I've had experience. Yeah, no, I've had experiences, but I would go as far as to say that the sexual trauma that I experienced in my childhood didn't affect my sexuality in a way that I'm consciously aware of. But I will say that following my formative years, my ability to feel safe being vulnerable or emotionally supported, which you need to be able to fall in love with another person regardless of their gender, I feel was broken in a way that I don't have any interest in restoring at this moment. Was that a safe enough answer?
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, It makes a lot of sense. It is, like you said, trust and safety are some of the major components of being in love. And if those have been violated in a major way or over and over by someone of the opposite sex, it can make it really difficult to have trust that there is a man out there who isn't going to do that when all of your experiences say otherwise, right?
Yeah.
Or big impactful experiences. Sorry.
No. And being a data-driven type A, the final point I'll add is that historically my experiences has been a numbers game, and I don't my feelings don't change specifically because of one isolated incident. They change because of trends. And right now, as a numbers game, the the amount of times that I have been proven right in situations with people of the opposite sex in ways that I don't want to be proven right outnumbers the times I was wrong. And I don't know. That's all I'm saying. It's just I've been wrong. I've been hurt. Molly, I've been hurt.
I've muted myself on accident.
Jesus
so
Christ. I
I'm so
just was so vulnerable talking about how many times I've been hurt by a dude,
no, I
and then Molly
listened.
goes
I
radio
listened.
silent.
I muted myself so that I wouldn't talk over
Mhm.
you, so I could focus on the words coming out of your mouth. And as a result, I forgot to unclick it. So I apologize. Do you think that there's any societal changes that have happened over the past 10 or 15 years that have made you feel more comfortable with your sexuality or sexual orientation?
Yes. I know that kind of I stand on the shoulders of giants and a lot of successes for from people that have come before me, and so I feel a lot more safe. And it's I'm air quoting normal. It's a lot different and more inclusive. There's a lot more representation now than there was 10 years ago. And so I think that it's just being queer is more of a conversation in general, and to that I owe a great deal of gratitude to all of our queer ancestors that like make it easier a little bit more to live authentically. I don't know that 10 years ago I would have transitioned out in my sexuality as easily as I did just a year ago.
Yeah. This article says so the title of the article is just about it says women over 30 are leaving their husbands and boyfriends for other women. And so it's this woman's story, and then it's a doctor, and it says she's a professor and division chief of behavioral medicine at the OBGYN clinic at Cleveland Medical Center. And she says she's seen straight cis women like her experiencing sudden same-sex attraction. I've seen a mild increase in my own practice of women in their 30s over the last decade. They'd be happily married with men all their lives, or be with men all their lives. Maybe they'd be married, maybe even already have children. And at some point in their 30s or 40s, a switch flipped. She goes on to say that it's difficult to separate an increase in the phenomenon from an increase in social acceptance of queerness, but that there are biological underpinnings of queerness for lots of women. Maybe it's hormonal, maybe it's neuroendocrine, or a shift in brain chemistry that can happen for women in their 30s and 40s. But that definitely she's seeing more women question, where they're at and being more sexually fluid than ever before. So I think that's really, that is in line with the experience that I've had, but also experiences of people that I know who, I was with a group of women friends weeks ago, and it was all women, and nobody was queer except maybe me and one other person. So it was mostly folks who are heterosexual, and almost all of them are married or in long-term relationships with men. And there are a number of them questioning their sexuality or their fluidity in the sense of like, I don't even really know if I'm happy, or I'm definitely not sexually satisfied. Like, am I supposed to be? There was just a lot of conversation about that. And I think if nothing else, it's a good thing to be thinking and talking about and making sure that you are happy with where you're at. And that's not something that you just doing because you just wake up and do it every day. And that at least it's something people can talk about more, I think, than they used to.
Yeah, a lot broader too, and casually, without for fear. It's not that long ago that, you couldn't for fear of being imprisoned. Like, it's not, history is not that long ago. And so
You're right.
I keep that in mind very, very closely.
Yeah. I keep reading things on the internet that affirm the way I feel because I'm really into that. But this article goes on to talk about it, and I'll just quote it directly. If a woman has only had one same-sex attraction or affair and really feels that it was focused on that specific person, that is more likely to be an instance of fluidity. In other words, you can, maybe be very happy in your marriage or be very happy loving men, and have maybe one instance where you have someone that you're deeply attracted to of the same sex, and that we would refer to that as sort of sexual fluidity versus bisexuality, right? So what you referred to earlier as being bisexual is more like, I like men and I like women and I'm okay with either. Whereas sexual fluidity is more like, I'm heterosexual 98% of the time, but I have had a sexual experience with a woman, or I did fall in love with a woman, but I'm now dating men again and specifically interested in that. So it goes on to explain sort of sexual fluidity. But one of the risks of the lesbian narrative is that it leads women to feel that their previous relationships with men must have been fake or inauthentic. But it's completely possible that a woman had a totally satisfying history of relationships with men and is now experiencing totally new and equally satisfying relationships with women. So, some of the things that I said earlier about, things not feeling right, it could just different for everybody. For myself, I think it was more societal / personal pressure that I put on myself to be straight. And I really did care about the men I was in relationships with, but I also knew that it wasn't going to be the long-term thing. Like, I just never felt like that was what I was supposed to do, even though it wasn't bad and I didn't hate it. It just wasn't right. I don't know if you've ever been in a relationship with someone even where you could say that, like, this person is right. Like, they check all the boxes, they've got a nice job and they work hard and they're kind and compassionate and they love dogs and everything is good. But for some reason, like, this isn't the one, like, it's just not right. And that I likened it to that I don't want to negate any relationships I've ever had with other people, but it was never right until now. And so it is common for women in their 30s and 40s, especially as their hormones change, to experience more fluidity in their sexuality.
Well said.
Well, I mean, I read it from an article, so I didn't actually really say most of it.
Well read.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm on the floor listening to you, and you're propped up on my bed, so I feel like I'm in gay story time.
Did you fall asleep? Is that what happened?
No,
Okay.
not hanging on every word. I mean it sincerely. This is helpful and validating. Like, people need to know. It's not like, it's okay to feel one way and have questions. And even if you don't, for me, like, this sounds silly, but having that shadow work process of, like, looking myself in the eye and saying some of these things out loud to myself before I could really even start talking to anyone else about it, it works. It sounds silly, but it's normal, and everyone deserves to feel comfortable and live authentically.
Yeah.
Whoever it is.
Even me, I count too.
Why even you?
Okay, so a friend of mine said that she listens to my podcast to fall asleep. Would you be offended?
My immediate reaction is yes.
That's what I said. She's like, no, your voice is soothing though. And I was like, but this isn't like a...
Then call me before bed and ask me what I had for breakfast. This is my art.
She said when she gets up in the morning, she finishes it though. So
okay, that counts.
Yeah, it counts.
Do you want me to start building assessments? Oh my God, we could turn your Spotify into an LMS and we can start quizzing your very best friends.
Oh, I like this idea.
On each episode. Yeah, you don't?
I do. No, I do.
Okay, yeah. I'll text. No, if anybody from work listens to this, they're gonna be like, "Damn it, we know she's never doing anything."
Oh my gosh. Okay, we're gonna develop some sort of HTML code thing that's gonna allow you to quiz my friends. Is that what just happened?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Perfect.
And I will send out. Yeah, I'll send results. Don't you worry. And it'll be good questions where you actually have to listen. You can't just get it during your REM cycle.
Okay. Yeah, there you go. That's what we need. Or like, how about like, I give students tests and they read stuff, and then to make sure that they read it, they have to answer a question to move on. We should do that. So I know people are actually listening. They have to like click on something to get the rest of the show. So I know they're paying attention and not falling asleep.
Engagement questions.
Engagement. Yes.
Oh my, listener engagement markers. And then they'll only be questions about you. And so then they can't move on unless they actually know you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wait, hold on. That's not how you create a Spotify audience.
It's also, we don't want to limit people from listening to this show. So let's not do that. But I am curious about people who experience sexual switch in their 30s and 40s. Maybe someone will reach out to me. There are stories of women, and this is not my experience. And that's the thing I want to be clear about, is it not that I necessarily experienced a sexual switch in my 30s or 40s, although that is sort of what we're talking about. I will say that I think I know that I knew for a long time that I was queer. I just had to come to terms with that myself. But it is also totally normal to not be queer and be in a very satisfying heterosexual relationship and then find over time that you actually don't want that anymore. And
Good
that is an altogether different experience than one that I've had, but I know that it's one that folks I know have had. And so sometimes women, especially because they have different friendships, as we talked about earlier, the depth and the level that women have friendships, they will find in their 30s and 40s that while they are married and happy, they still need women in their lives to sort of balance out that relationship, that their male partner maybe can't give them everything that they need. And so even women who are very straight will have very important friendships with other women that really help to balance out what it is that men don't necessarily offer from an emotional standpoint. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Do you hear my dog panting?
No.
Okay, good. Because that's not a good look on the podcast, is to hear heavy breathing in the background.
Not talking about these types of relationships.
I know. Sorry, I went overboard. So you would very much say that you grew up straight.
No, but that brings into like a good point is like there sometimes, you have those situations as well where it could be more of a physical thing too. Like I don't know, why am I so like I'm all love is love over here, but seriously, like I like that conversation of if you I think of the analogy of you having like a complex cup with different chambers that can only take on certain types of liquids or solids or something like that, and your person is a liquid, but this particular chamber will only fit something solid, right? Or hold
Yeah.
something solid. And so you got to go out there you still deserve to have a full cup, but some people have to get a little bit creative and figure out how to fill each chamber the right way that they, I don't know, deserve.
Yeah. I like this cup with a lot of chambers in it. I'm thinking of all the liquids I would not want to drink simultaneously. Like, I don't want my cup chambers to have like milk and orange juice
Well,
in
because
them.
I kind of like shot myself in the foot with that one, because then I started to remember, I was like, well, now I got it. Okay, gas is the other one. Now fire. My cup of elements I shorted out at like third grade, and
You
I
sure
couldn't
did.
remember the other one. So like,
Solid.
am I holding elements or am I holding solids?
Is it
I don't
solid,
know. It
solid,
still
liquid, and gas,
stands.
right?
My heart was in the right place, guys.
Well, there's only three,
Solid,
right?
liquid, gas. Ooh, so you get right. So you need a solid, a liquid, and a gas for
Yeah.
your cup.
For your
Go
cup.
find your solid and a liquid and a
Okay.
gas.
Okay.
And
Yeah. Then your cup
yeah.
overfloweth.
This one's for the visual learners out
Yes.
there.
Yes. The article goes on to wrap what I think is very nice. And the doctor says, you shouldn't think that whatever you wanted at age 25 is what you'll want and enjoy for the rest of your life in any way. Your sexual development isn't over at 25. And we should all embrace and welcome such changes and evolutions as they are a sign of our own continued vitality. Just that it is okay to recognize that these things may change, and also even your sexual desires, like the kind of people that you like and are interested in when you're 25 are the kinds of things that you're attracted to when you're 25 may not be the same kinds of things you're attracted to when you're 45, and that your sexual development and your sexual identity is all still evolving and growing and changing. So that brings me a little bit of reassurance, I guess. Not for me, but just that this entire conversation is valid and that it's a conversation we should be having. I love when I'm around my friends who are down to kind of explore some of these things and talk about different things without being afraid to, like, you're going to think I'm gay if I tell you this. Like, no, that's not necessarily true. You can, and that's when you think about like women going into prison, right? Gay for this day women who go to prison and they were never gay before, but now they're around a lot of women and they call it, there's that phrase, gay for this day, but really is just the situation causing you to have to be more sexually fluid and only to be happy. And so then you open up your mind to the potential in a way that you didn't have to. So like, I guess what I'm saying here is if you should check out Prison, it'll really open your mind.
Oh, God damn it.
This thing has just really took a turn.
I'm over here. I'm like, oh shit, how is she going to make this one funny?
Well, I don't know. It's just.
I believed in you the whole time, dude. I knew you could do it.
I really came through.
I was nervous there for a
I really
second.
came through. Oh, man. Well, I appreciate you being vulnerable today because I know that these topics aren't always easy to discuss. And not only that, but you listen to me talk about my skin tags or my future skin tags.
Yeah. Don't forget, don't fucking send me that shit.
Okay. I won't. You have any parting words of wisdom, JeNae?
No, nothing that could like really wrap it up as poignantly as Gay for the Stay. Honestly, you stole my thunder.
That's all, folks.
No, yeah, that's all. No, I appreciate the time, Molly. This is a damn delight as always.
As always. Thank you so much. This is Hot Flashbacks. We're out. Want more? We're on all the major podcasting platforms like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Amazon Music. Just search for Hot Flashbacks and subscribe.